If you missed February 17th, you're not alone. But here's what most people don't know. That portal didn't close the way you think it did. It's still accessible. That access is fading fast. And if you don't act on what I'm about to show you, you'll feel the drag of being out of sync for weeks. This isn't about fear, it's about precision. In a moment, I'll give you a simple step-by-step protocol to re-enter the frequency while you still can. Before we go deeper, if this kind of knowledge speaks to you, subscribe to the channel. This is where we keep building on this work together. If you felt something shift around mid-February and you didn't know why, you weren't imagining it. February 17, 2026 was a solar eclipse in Aquarius. Not just any eclipse, this was one of the most significant Aquarius eclipses in years. And it landed at 28 degrees, a critical degree that amplifies transformation. Eclipses are known in spiritual and astrological communities as portals because they create a thinning of the veil between what is and what could be. They open doorways, they accelerate timelines, they compress years into days. And this one hit at a moment when multiple spiritual traditions converged on the same date. February 17th wasn't just an eclipse. It also marked the beginning of the Chinese New Year, a fresh cycle that, in many traditions, carries momentum for bold action and forward movement. It lined up with Mardi Gras, a day of release before a season of reflection, and depending on moon sighting, it aligned with the start of Ramadan in many parts of the world, a time of discipline, purification, and inner alignment. When that many energetic currents converge on a single day, you don't get a normal Tuesday. You get a cosmic checkpoint, a recalibration moment where reality feels more flexible, and intention gains momentum in ways that don't follow normal time. But here's the part most people missed. Just 3 days after that eclipse, on February 20th, Saturn and Neptune converge at the very first degree of Aries, the Aries point. That might sound like astrology jargon, so let me translate it clearly. Saturn and Neptune meet about once every 36 years, but they haven't conjoined in Aries since the early 1700s. Over 3 centuries. And that matters because it marks the start of a brand new Saturn-Neptune cycle. Saturn rules structure, discipline, and the material world. Neptune rules dreams, intuition, and the dissolving of old boundaries. Aries is initiation, raw forward motion. When those forces meet at the zodiac's starting line, it hits like a collective reset button. The moment when a vision stops being just a feeling and demands a real beginning. So when I say February 17 was a portal, I'm not speaking metaphorically. I'm talking about an alignment of energies, both measurable and esoteric, that created a window for profound transformation. If you were aware of it, if you set intentions, if you aligned yourself with that frequency, you rode a wave that's still carrying you forward. But if you missed it, if you didn't know what was happening, if you let that day pass like any other, you're probably feeling the absence of something you can't quite name, a sense that you were supposed to do something and you didn't, a feeling that an opportunity slipped past you, and you're right. But here's what you need to understand. You didn't lose it completely. Portals don't work the way most people think. They're not on-off switches. They're not binary. An eclipse creates a peak moment, yes, but that peak sends out reverberations. Think of it like dropping a stone into water. The impact is instant, but the ripples move outward for a long time after. The February 17th portal opened a frequency that's still active. It hasn't closed yet. And that means you still have access if you know how to tune into it. Most people who missed the portal were actually standing in the energy the entire time. They just didn't know what they were feeling or what to do with it. Aquarius is the sign of the future. It rules innovation, rebellion, collective consciousness, and radical authenticity. When a solar eclipse happens in Aquarius, it's not asking you to tweak your habits or make small adjustments. It's asking you to step into a completely different version of yourself, a version that doesn't play by the old rules, a version that isn't afraid to stand out, to break from tradition, to build something new. This eclipse was about shedding the identity you've been carrying and claiming the one you're becoming. If you felt restless in the weeks leading up to February 17th, if you felt like your life suddenly didn't fit anymore, if you started questioning everything you thought was stable, that was the eclipse frequency starting to move through you. The Aquarius energy doesn't ask permission, it disrupts. It shakes loose what's false, it exposes where you've been performing instead of being. And for a lot of people that felt chaotic. It felt like everything was falling apart. But what was actually happening was a clearing. The eclipse was creating space for the new timeline. It was removing the structures that were keeping you locked in an outdated version of reality. And if you resisted that clearing, if you tried to hold on to what was leaving, you probably felt the weight of that resistance. You might still be feeling it now. Here's what makes this eclipse different from others. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, the planet of sudden change and awakening. Uranus doesn't move slowly. It doesn't give you time to prepare. It shows up, it cracks everything open, and it forces you to evolve. That's why the energy around February 17 felt so intense. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't gradual, it was a lightning strike. And if you weren't ready for it, if you didn't have your intentions set, if you didn't understand what was happening, the energy moved through you anyway. But it moved through you unconsciously. And unconscious transformation is messy. It shows up as confusion, as conflict, as things breaking down without knowing why. Conscious transformation, on the other hand, is directed. It's powerful. It's clean. And that's what we're going to do now. Let's talk about what it actually means to work with an eclipse portal. Eclipses are moments when the sun, moon, and earth align in a way that blocks light. In spiritual terms, that blocking of light represents a pause in the normal flow of reality. It's a moment where the veil thins, where the boundary between the physical and energetic worlds becomes more permeable. Ancient cultures understood this. They treated eclipses as sacred, as dangerous, as powerful. They knew that during an eclipse, the rules change. What you set in motion during an eclipse carries more weight. What you release during an eclipse leaves more completely. And what you call in during an eclipse arrives faster. But here's the key. You have to be intentional. You have to know what you're doing. The energy doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't care if you're aware. It's going to move through you either way. The only question is whether you're directing it or whether it's directing you. And most people, because they didn't know February 17 was a portal, let the energy move them without any sense of where they were going. They felt the chaos. They felt the disruption. They felt the ending of old patterns. But they didn't set a new direction. They didn't claim the new timeline. And so they're in limbo now, feeling the absence of what left, but not yet connected to what's coming. The convergence of the Chinese New Year on the same day as the eclipse wasn't random. In a lot of traditions, Chinese New Year carries new cycle energy, bold decisions, forward motion, and a clean break from what's been stagnant. When that energy merged with the Aquarius eclipse, it created a double amplification, a call to not just change, but to move. Not just shift, but leap. If you've been feeling unusually restless since mid-February, impatient with your own life, craving something you can't even name yet, that's this New Year momentum and the Aquarius portal working together. They're not letting you settle. They're not letting you stay small, and if you try to ignore that call, it only gets louder. If you felt a shift around February 17th, even without knowing what it was, write in the comments, "I felt the portal." Now let's talk about Mardi Gras and Ramadan, landing on the same day as the eclipse. Mardi Gras is about release before restraint, about letting go of what no longer serves before entering a period of introspection. Ramadan is about discipline, fasting, purification and deepening your connection to the divine. On the surface, these energies seem opposite. One is about indulgence and release, the other about restraint and focus. But they're actually two sides of the same process. You can't purify without first acknowledging what needs to be released. You can't build discipline without first clearing out the distractions. The fact that both of these traditions began on February 17th, the same day as the eclipse, tells you something about the nature of this portal. It wasn't just about one thing, it was about the full cycle. Release and restraint, chaos and order. Ending and beginning, all at once. This is why the portal felt so intense. It wasn't a single frequency event. It was a multi-layered, multi-dimensional convergence of energies that don't usually show up together. And when you stack that many frequencies on top of each other, you don't get a gentle nudge. You get a tidal wave, a full system reset, a moment where every area of your life is suddenly up for review. And if you weren't prepared for that, if you didn't have a container for it, it probably felt overwhelming. But now that you know what it was, you can go back and make sense of it. You can see the pattern, and more importantly, you can work with the energy that's still available. Think of it like this. Imagine a massive bell being struck. The loudest sound happens at the moment of impact, but the bell keeps vibrating long after that initial strike. It keeps producing sound, just at a lower volume. And if you put your hand on the bell, you can still feel the vibration even when you can't hear it anymore. That's what's happening with the February 17 portal. The impact happened, the bell was struck, but the vibration is still there. And if you know how to tune into it, if you know where to place your attention, you can still access that frequency. You can still step into the timeline shift that the eclipse opened. It just requires more intention now, more focus, more deliberate action. When I say someone missed a portal, what I really mean is that they moved through the energy unconsciously. The energy didn't pass them by. It passed through them. It affected them. It moved things in their life, but they didn't direct it. They didn't set intentions. They didn't align themselves with the frequency consciously, and so the energy moved them instead of them moving with the energy. That's the difference. Conscious alignment versus unconscious absorption. One feels like you're steering. The other feels like you're being dragged, and if you've been feeling dragged lately, if you've been feeling like life is happening to you instead of with you, that's a sign that you absorbed the eclipse energy without directing it. Here's what that looks like in practice. Maybe around mid-February, things started breaking down in your life. A relationship ended. A job situation shifted. A living arrangement fell apart. A belief system you'd been holding on to suddenly didn't make sense anymore. And you didn't know why. You didn't see it coming. It felt random, chaotic, unfair. But what was actually happening was the eclipse doing its job. It was clearing out what no longer belonged in your new timeline. It was removing the structures that were keeping you stuck. And because you didn't know what was happening, because you didn't have a framework for it, you probably resisted. You probably tried to hold on. You probably mourned what was leaving instead of making space for what was coming. And that resistance created friction. It created pain, not because the universe was punishing you, but because you were fighting the very process that was trying to set you free. Or maybe nothing dramatic happened externally, but internally, you felt a shift. You started questioning things you'd never questioned before. You started feeling restless in situations that used to feel comfortable. You started noticing patterns you'd been blind to. You started feeling a pull towards something you couldn't name yet, and you didn't know what to do with that. So you ignored it. You pushed it down. You told yourself you were overthinking. You tried to go back to normal. But the pull didn't go away. It's still there. And the more you ignore it, the louder it gets. That's the eclipse energy working through you. It's trying to redirect you. It's trying to show you the new path. But you have to be willing to see it. You have to be willing to follow it. What most people don't realize is that portals aren't just about opportunities. They're also about closures. They're about endings. And endings are uncomfortable. Endings feel like loss, even when what's ending needed to end. The February 17th portal wasn't just opening a door to something new, it was closing the door on something old. And if you were attached to that old thing, if you were identified with it, if you thought it was who you were, that closing felt like a death. But it wasn't a death, it was a release, a necessary one. And now, looking back, you can probably see it. You can probably see what needed to leave. You can probably see why it couldn't come with you into this next phase. But at the time, it just felt like everything was falling apart. The reason I'm walking you through this is because I need you to stop seeing February 17 as something you failed at. You didn't fail. You just didn't have the information you needed. And that's not your fault. Most people don't track eclipses. Most people don't know about Saturn-Neptune conjunctions. Most people don't understand how energy moves through time and space. But now you do. And now you can go back and make sense of what happened. You can connect the dots. You can see the pattern. And more importantly, you can step back into the frequency that's still available and start directing it consciously. If this is helping you understand what happened, let me know by liking this video. Here's what happens when you don't consciously work with a portal. The energy moves through you anyway, but it moves chaotically. It stirs things up without giving you a clear direction. It removes what needs to go, but it doesn't show you what to build in its place. It creates a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. So if you don't fill that space with intention, with vision, with aligned action, the vacuum will fill itself with whatever is nearby. Old patterns, old fears, old stories. The same energy you just cleared out will come rushing back in because there's nothing else there to take its place. And then you're right back where you started, except now you're more confused and more exhausted because you went through all that upheaval for nothing. That's what it means to miss a portal. It's not that the door wasn't open, it's that you walked through the door and then turned around and walked back out because you didn't know where you were going. The eclipse cleared the path. It opened the way. But you have to be the one to walk it. You have to be the one to claim the new timeline. And if you don't, the old timeline will reclaim you. Not because it's stronger, but because it's familiar. And humans default to familiarity when they don't have a clear vision of where they're going. So let's talk about what's still available. The reverberations of the February 17 portal are active for approximately 6 to 8 weeks after the eclipse. We're currently in that window. That means you have until late March, early April, to fully align with the frequency that was opened. After that, the window closes. Not completely, but significantly. The energy will still be in motion, yes. The changes that were set in motion will still unfold, yes. But your ability to consciously direct those changes, to steer the ship, that ability diminishes the further you get from the eclipse date. Right now you still have access. Right now you can still course correct. But you need to act, and you need to act with intention. Here's the good news. Because you're here, because you're watching this, because something in you recognized that you need this information, you're already tuning into the frequency. You're already beginning to align. The fact that this video found you, or that you found this video, that's not random. That's the portal pulling you back in. That's the eclipse energy saying, you're not done yet. There's still time, there's still access, but you have to meet it halfway. You have to show up. You have to do the work. And I'm about to show you exactly what that work is. The mistake most people make is thinking that portals are passive, that you just have to be in the right place at the right time and the magic happens automatically. But that's not how it works. Portals are amplifiers. They amplify whatever you're already putting out. If you're putting out fear, confusion, resistance, the portal amplifies that. If you're putting out clarity, intention, aligned action, the portal amplifies that. The energy doesn't discriminate. It just magnifies. So if you walked through February 17 in a state of unconscious reaction, the portal magnified your reactivity. But if you walk through the next few weeks in a state of conscious intention, the portal will magnify that too. And that's what we're going to do now. You need to understand that the Aquarius energy specifically is asking you to step into a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. Not a better version of who you are now. A completely different version. A version that operates by different rules, that values different things, that moves through the world in a way you haven't moved before. Aquarius doesn't do incremental growth. It does quantum leaps. It does radical shifts. And that's uncomfortable because it means you have to let go of the identity you've been holding on to. You have to stop trying to improve the old self and start building the new self from scratch. And most people aren't willing to do that. They want transformation, but they want to keep their identity intact. And that's not how this works. Here's what you need to accept if you want to work with this portal. The version of you that existed before February 17 is gone. Or at least, it should be gone. If you're still trying to be that person, if you're still trying to fit into that life, that identity, that's why you're feeling friction. That's why things aren't working. You're trying to squeeze yourself back into a container you've already outgrown, and the universe is not going to let you. It's going to keep creating disruption, keep creating discomfort, keep creating breakdowns, until you finally let go and step into what's next. So you can resist that process and suffer through it, or you can surrender to it and move through it with grace. Either way, the process is happening. The only question is how much pain you're going to inflict on yourself before you finally cooperate. So let's get to it. Here's what you do immediately to step back into the February 17 portal frequency and claim the timeline that's still available. This isn't theory. This isn't philosophy. This is the actual practice. The first thing you need to do is acknowledge the portal consciously. I know that sounds simple, almost too simple, but this step is critical. Most people moved through February 17 without acknowledging what it was. They felt the energy, yes. They experienced the shifts, yes. But they didn't name it. They didn't mark it as significant, and in the energetic world, acknowledgement is activation. When you acknowledge something, you bring it into your conscious awareness. You give it permission to work with you instead of just on you. So right now, I want you to say this out loud or write it down. I acknowledge the February 17 portal. I recognize that I moved through it unconsciously, and I'm now choosing to align with it consciously. That's it. That's the first step. Simple, but essential. The second thing you need to do is conduct what I call a timeline review. This is where you go back through the last 30 days and you look at everything that's happened since February 17 with new eyes. Get a journal, open a document, or just sit with a pen and paper and start writing. What changed? What ended? What began? What fell apart? What showed up unexpectedly? What did you feel called to do but didn't follow through on? What opportunities appeared that you ignored? What synchronicities did you notice? The point of this exercise is not to judge yourself or to feel bad about what you missed. The point is to see the pattern, to see how the portal was already moving through your life, even without your awareness. Because once you can see the pattern, you can start working with it instead of against it. Most people, when they do this review, are shocked at how much actually changed. They realize that February wasn't a normal month. They realized that things were shifting in ways they didn't fully register at the time because they were too busy reacting. But now, with the context of the eclipse, with the understanding of what was happening energetically, the pieces start to fit together. That argument you had that seemed to come out of nowhere, that was the eclipse clearing out misalignment. That job offer you almost took but didn't, that was the portal redirecting you. That sudden urge to move, to travel, to change your routine, that was Aquarius calling you into the new. All of it was connected, all of it was part of the process, and now that you can see it, you can work with it. The third step is to define your new timeline. And this is where most people get stuck because they try to define it in terms of what they want to have instead of who they want to become. Aquarius doesn't care about your material goals. It cares about your evolution. It cares about the version of yourself that you're being called to embody. So instead of asking, what do I want to manifest, ask this. Who do I need to become by the end of 2026? What version of myself is waiting on the other side of this portal? And be specific. Not, I want to be successful, but I am someone who trusts my vision enough to act on it even when it doesn't make logical sense. Not, I want to be happy, but I am someone who chooses alignment over comfort even when it's uncomfortable. Do you see the difference? One is passive. One is active. One is about receiving. One is about becoming. Write that version of yourself down. Describe them. What do they value? What do they no longer tolerate? How do they move through the world? What decisions do they make that you haven't been making? What fears have they released that you're still holding on to? Get as detailed as you can, because this is the version of yourself that the portal is trying to pull you into. This is the timeline that February 17 opened. And the more clearly you can see it, the more easily you can step into it. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. This is about recognizing who you're becoming and giving yourself permission to become them now, instead of waiting for someday. The fourth step is a ritual. And before you roll your eyes or dismiss this as woo-woo, understand that rituals work because they create a container for intention. They signal to your subconscious and to the energetic field that you're serious, that you're not just thinking about change, you're committing to it. Here's the ritual. Find a moment when you can be alone and undisturbed. Ideally during a waxing moon, when the energy is building toward fullness. Light a candle if you have one. Sit down with the description you just wrote of your new timeline self. Read it out loud. Then say this, in your own words, or exactly as I'm giving it to you. I stepped through the February 17th portal. I may not have been conscious at the time, but I'm choosing consciousness now. I release the version of myself that no longer serves this timeline. I call in the version of myself that is aligned with this new frequency. I claim this. I embody this. I am this. Then sit in silence for a few minutes. Don't rush. Don't fill the space with noise. Just be present with the decision you just made. The fifth step is to eliminate what's blocking the new timeline. And this is the part that requires ruthless honesty. Aquarius is about authenticity. It's about truth. It's about living in alignment with who you actually are, not who you've been pretending to be. So ask yourself, where am I still performing? Where am I still trying to fit into a role that doesn't fit anymore? Where am I still people-pleasing, still avoiding conflict, still dimming myself down to make others comfortable? Whatever comes up, that's what needs to go. Not eventually, not when you feel ready. Now. Because every day you spend pretending is a day you're not aligned with the portal frequency. And the portal doesn't wait. It moves forward with or without you. So you need to move forward too. If you've been applying these principles but still feel like something is blocking your manifestation, like there's a missing piece you can't quite see, I left something for you in the first pinned comment. It's for those who are ready to break through. This might mean having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. It might mean quitting a job, ending a relationship, moving to a new city, or walking away from a community that no longer resonates. It might mean something smaller, like stopping a habit, changing how you present yourself online, or setting a boundary you've never set before. The specific action will be unique to you. But the principle is the same. If it's not authentic, it has to go. If it's not aligned, it's in the way. And if you keep tolerating misalignment, the universe will keep creating friction until you finally address it. So save yourself the trouble and address it now. The sixth step is action. Real, physical, tangible action in the direction of your new timeline. Within the next 7 days, you need to do something that the old version of you wouldn't have done. Something that signals to the universe and to yourself that you're serious about this shift. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be dramatic. But it has to be real. Maybe it's signing up for the thing you've been putting off. Maybe it's reaching out to the person you've been too scared to contact. Maybe it's investing in the project you've been telling yourself you can't afford. Maybe it's deleting the app that's been draining your energy. Maybe it's saying no to the thing you always say yes to. Whatever it is, it needs to be something that creates evidence of change. Because the portal doesn't respond to thoughts. It responds to action. And the more you act in alignment with your new timeline, the more momentum you build, and the more the universe meets you halfway. Here's why the next 7 days are critical. The further you get from the eclipse date, the more the old patterns try to reassert themselves. The momentum of the old timeline doesn't just disappear, it lingers. It pulls at you. It tries to drag you back into the familiar. And if you don't create new momentum quickly, if you don't anchor the new timeline with action, the old timeline will reclaim you by default. Not because it's stronger, but because it's already established. It's already got grooves, pathways, neural patterns, energetic signatures. The new timeline doesn't have that yet. You have to build it, and you build it through action. Repeated, consistent, aligned action. But it starts with the first action. And that first action needs to happen in the next 7 days, while the portal is still reverberating. Let me give you some examples of what this might look like in practice. If your new timeline self is someone who trusts their intuition, your action might be to make a decision based on your gut instead of logic. If your new timeline self is someone who doesn't dim their light for others, your action might be to post something online that you've been too afraid to share. If your new timeline self is someone who prioritizes their health, your action might be to book the appointment you've been putting off or to throw out the food that's not serving you. If your new timeline self is someone who doesn't accept less than they deserve, your action might be to have the conversation where you ask for what you actually want instead of settling. These don't have to be life-altering moves. They just have to be true moves, moves that feel aligned, moves that make the old version of you uncomfortable and the new version of you energized. And here's the thing, when you take that first aligned action, the universe responds, not always immediately, not always in the way you expect, but it responds. Doors open, opportunities show up, people enter your life, resources become available, synchronicities multiply because you've signaled that you're ready, you've shown up, you've met the portal halfway. And the portal, the energy, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it meets you back. It amplifies what you've started. It builds on the momentum you've created. But you have to create the momentum first. You have to be the one to move. The energy will support you, but it won't move for you. The 7th step is to stay in the frequency. This isn't a one-time thing. This isn't something you do once and then forget about. The portal is open for the next few weeks, but it requires consistent alignment. You need to check in with yourself daily. Am I acting from the old timeline or the new timeline? Am I making decisions based on fear or on vision? Am I tolerating misalignment or am I addressing it? Am I moving forward or am I slipping back? These questions will keep you honest. They'll keep you on track. And they'll keep you in the portal frequency until it fully integrates into your reality. After that, it becomes your new baseline. But until then, you have to be intentional. You have to be vigilant. You have to choose the new timeline over and over again until it's no longer a choice, until it's just who you are. Now let's talk about why this portal is specifically Aquarian and what that means for how you work with it. Every sign carries a different frequency, a different flavor of energy. And Aquarius is one of the most misunderstood. People think Aquarius is about being detached, aloof, unemotional. But that's not it. Aquarius is about authenticity at all costs. It's about refusing to conform, refusing to fit into boxes that weren't built for you, refusing to play roles that don't reflect who you actually are. It's the sign of the rebel, the innovator, the one who sees the future before anyone else does and has the courage to build it even when everyone else thinks they're crazy. If you're trying to work with this portal while still people-pleasing, while still playing it safe, while still trying to fit in, you're working against the frequency. Aquarius doesn't reward conformity. It rewards radical authenticity. Here's the paradox of Aquarius. It's the sign of the individual and the collective at the same time. It asks you to be fully yourself, unapologetically yourself, while also being in service to something larger than yourself. This is not about selfish individualism. This is not about doing whatever you want without regard for others. It's about finding the unique gift that only you can bring and then offering that gift to the collective. It's about standing out so that you can contribute something that no one else can. And if you're trying to blend in, if you're trying to be like everyone else, you're withholding your gift. You're denying the world what only you can give. And that's not humility. That's fear disguised as humility. The February 17th portal is asking you to find that gift, to name it, to own it, to stop apologizing for it, to stop dimming it, to stop waiting for permission to fully express it. Because the world doesn't need more people doing what everyone else is doing. The world needs people who are willing to be different, to think differently, to move differently, to create differently. And that's what Aquarius is here to activate. If you've been feeling a pull to do something that doesn't make sense to anyone else, that's not a problem to fix. That's the frequency trying to move through you. And the more you resist it, the more friction you're going to feel. The portal wants you to follow that pull, even if you don't know where it's going yet. Let's talk about how to manifest in alignment with Aquarius, because it's different from other energies. Most manifestation teachings focus on the individual. Visualize what you want, feel the feeling of having it, take aligned action, and the universe delivers. And that works to an extent, but Aquarius adds another layer. It asks, how does what you're manifesting serve the collective? How does it contribute to the evolution of consciousness? How does it make the world different, better, more awake? If you're manifesting purely for personal gain, Aquarius won't block you, but it won't fully support you either. You'll get some results, but you'll feel a nagging sense that something's missing, that there's a deeper purpose you're not tapping into. And that's because there is. Aquarius wants you to tie your personal evolution to collective evolution, to see yourself as part of a larger whole, to ask, what's mine to do that moves us all forward? This doesn't mean you have to save the world. It doesn't mean you have to be some grand, visionary leader changing millions of lives. It can be much simpler than that. Maybe your gift is creating spaces where people feel safe to be themselves. Maybe your gift is asking the questions no one else is asking. Maybe your gift is translating complex ideas into language that's accessible. Maybe your gift is seeing potential in people that they don't see in themselves yet. Whatever it is, it's not about the scale, it's about the intention. Are you showing up authentically, offering what's uniquely yours, in service to something beyond just your own comfort and security? If yes, Aquarius will amplify you. If no, Aquarius will keep disrupting you until you get with the program. Here's a practice you can do to stay aligned with the Aquarian frequency over the next few weeks. Every morning, ask yourself this question. What would I do today if I wasn't afraid of what people think? And then, if it's aligned, if it feels true, do that thing. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be public. It just has to be honest. Maybe it's wearing something you love but have been too self-conscious to wear. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting when you'd normally stay quiet. Maybe it's sharing your work when you'd normally hide it. Maybe it's saying no when you'd normally say yes. These small acts of authenticity are how you build momentum with Aquarius. You don't have to burn your life down and start over, though some of you might be called to do exactly that. But for most people, it's about micro shifts. Little moments where you choose truth over fear, where you choose self-expression over self-censorship, where you choose alignment over approval. And here's what's going to happen when you start doing this consistently. You're going to lose some people. You're going to make some people uncomfortable. You're going to confuse people who thought they knew you. And that's okay. That's part of the process. Aquarius isn't here to make you popular, it's here to make you real. And real isn't always comfortable for people who are still hiding. Your authenticity will trigger their inauthenticity. Your courage will highlight their fear. Your willingness to be different will make them question why they're still trying so hard to fit in. And some of them will pull away. Some of them will judge you. Some of them will try to talk you out of it. And you have to let them. You have to be okay with being misunderstood. You have to be okay with standing alone if that's what alignment requires, because the people who are meant for your new timeline will find you. The people who resonate with your frequency will show up. But you have to be emitting that frequency first. You have to be the beacon, and you can't be a beacon if you're still trying to blend into the background. Let's talk about the role of technology and innovation in this portal. Aquarius rules technology. It rules the internet, social media, digital communication, artificial intelligence, all the tools that connect us across distance and time. And right now, we're in the middle of a massive technological shift. AI is exploding. The way we work, create, communicate, and consume information is changing faster than most people can keep up with. And this isn't separate from the spiritual work you're doing. This is part of it. Aquarius is asking you to integrate technology into your path, not resist it. To use these tools to amplify your voice, to reach the people you're meant to reach, to build the things you're meant to build. If you've been resistant to technology, if you've been saying, I'm not good at that, I don't understand it, it's too complicated, the portal is asking you to drop that story. You don't have to become a tech expert, but you do have to be willing to learn, to experiment, to engage with the tools that are available. Because those tools are how you're going to manifest your new timeline in the physical world. There are specific dates coming up over the next few weeks that will amplify the work you're doing. The next new moon is another window of intensity. Any new moon is a time for setting intentions, but a new moon that falls within the reverberations of an eclipse carries extra weight. Whatever you commit to during that new moon will have momentum behind it. So don't waste it. Don't set vague intentions. Don't wish for things. Decide, declare, commit, and then act. The energy will support you, but you have to give it something to work with. You have to show up with clarity and conviction. If you show up with doubt and hesitation, that's what gets amplified. So get clear before the new moon arrives. Know what you're calling in, know who you're becoming, and then use that new moon energy to lock it in. There are also things you need to avoid if you want to stay aligned with Aquarius. The biggest blocker for this energy is conformity. If you're still making decisions based on what's expected of you, what's normal, what everyone else is doing, you're out of alignment. Aquarius doesn't care about normal, it cares about true. So every time you're faced with a decision, ask yourself, am I choosing this because it's what I actually want, or am I choosing this because it's what I think I'm supposed to want? That question will save you from so much wasted time and energy. The second blocker is attachment to outcome. Aquarius is a fixed sign, yes, but it's also an air sign. It's mental, visionary, future-oriented. It's not attached to how things look right now. It's focused on where things are going. If you're clinging to the way things are, if you're trying to control every detail of how your new timeline unfolds, you're going to create resistance. You have to be willing to let go of the how and trust the direction. You have to be willing to take the next step without seeing the entire staircase. The third blocker is isolation disguised as independence. Aquarius values independence, yes, but it also values community. And some of you have been isolating, telling yourselves you're just being independent, when really you're protecting yourself from vulnerability. You're avoiding connection because connection requires you to be seen, and being seen requires you to be real. And being real is terrifying when you've spent years performing. But the portal is asking you to come out of isolation, to find your people, to build or join communities that reflect your values, your vision, your frequency. You're not meant to do this alone. You're meant to do it in collaboration with others who are on the same path. And those people exist. But you have to be visible for them to find you. You have to be willing to show up, to share, to connect, and that means dropping the armor. Here's what I want you to understand as we move toward the close of this window. You're not behind. You didn't miss it. You're exactly where you need to be, which is right here, right now, with this information, with this awareness, with this choice in front of you. The portal is still open, the frequency is still active, the timeline is still available, but it won't be forever. And the longer you wait, the more effort it's going to take to course correct. Right now, it's still easy. Right now, the energy is still strong enough to carry you if you just align with it. But in a few weeks, that ease will be gone. You'll still be able to shift, yes. You'll still be able to transform, yes. But it will require more force, more discipline, more willpower. Right now, you can ride the wave. Later, you'll have to swim against the current. So don't wait. Don't tell yourself you'll do it later. Don't convince yourself you have more time than you do. Act now. Align now. Choose now. The version of you that's waiting on the other side of this portal, the version that's aligned, authentic, empowered, clear, that version is already real. They already exist. They're not something you have to create from scratch. They're something you have to remember, something you have to allow, something you have to step into, and the only thing standing between you and them is the decision to stop being who you were and start being who you are. That's it. That's the whole process. Stop performing. Start being. Stop hiding. Start showing up. Stop waiting for permission. Start giving it to yourself. The portal opened the door, but you're the one who has to walk through it. If you stayed until the end, let me know by writing in the comments, I choose the new timeline. And I've placed another lesson on your screen right now, your next step on this path. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.